ATV-TALK, the podcast. Sit down with your host industry professional, Leonard Duncan, as the men and women from the ATV world bring their behind-the-scenes stories to life. Every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And remember, dream big. It could be your story one day.
GBC Powersports Tires, a division of Greenball Corp, has been producing industry-leading tires for ATV side-by-side market for over 25 years, with tires like Mongrel, Dirt Devil, TerraMaster, XC Master, Dirt Commander, and Groundbuster. They have a tire for your application. Top racers from GNCC, Works, and Best in the Desert rely on GBC Powersports tires. So why shouldn't you? Go check them out at gbctires.com to see the full line of tires they offer. Thank you very much.
Wrangell, welcome to ATV Talk. So we had a great conversation about a month ago or so, and I want to continue that, but I want to go backwards with you a little bit, and you're going to have to explain this because this will go on YouTube. Yeah. Why is there a quad behind you and not a three-wheeler? That's just, I mean, that's like going to the wrong church, man.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I'm not a quad guy, like at all. Don't get me wrong, I like them. I mean, they're cool, but they're just not my thing. And I've owned a bunch of them, and from Banshees to Blasters, I mean, just you name it. And, it's YZ and whatnot. I've owned a bunch of them, and they're cool, they're fun, but there's something a little more special about the three-wheeler for me personally. I grew up on them. 1987, I believe it was. My dad bought a brand new Honda 250 SX, I believe it was. In fact, we still have it. My older brother still has it. About that in 87 from Big Valley Honda right here in Reno. And so I just grew up riding three-wheelers, and I love them. And this particular quad, I bought this for parts to build the modern three-wheeler. And I actually really, really, really regret tearing this apart. And not because so much that I ruined a four-wheeler. I don't care about that. And I built a really nice three-wheeler. That's cool. But this is probably only has maybe 10 or 15 hours on it total. It's no 7 special edition. And this thing is mint. I mean, just absolutely gorgeous. There's literally, I think there's one scratch underneath the frame underneath. That's it. And so I didn't like what I had done there. So I wish I started with a bike or a quad that was less, or just not as nice. I didn't need as nice a quad. And I ended up developing all the parts that are on my three-wheeler myself with Damien that are on there now anyway, so I didn't need any of these parts. So what I've been doing is slowly collecting parts and putting this one back together, and I'll just give it to the wife. She likes YFZs, and she rides them. So that's what that's about. I don't really ride them. So,
well, that's a good explanation. Yeah. So let's take me back in time a little bit to the 80s, late 80s, early 90s when you were riding three-wheelers. Yeah. Were you just trail riding or just learning your skill set?
So basically just learning my skill set. We started riding, like I said, 1987. And basically, I mean, I rode that one we have. I rode that thing for years and years and years. And then my dad ended up selling it to my older brother. He still has it. In fact, I'm going to be restoring it here soon. And then I ended up buying a 200X, probably right around high school, I'm assuming. And then, and I didn't really do much with it. And I bought a couple other little three-wheelers. And then I finally found that 350X that I raced in Vegas to Reno 2021. And I've had that thing forever. I've had it for 22 plus years. And I mean, I never did race. I wanted to race three-wheelers. But the problem was I came into it a little too late, I think. I'm about 10 years younger than, some of the old timers that were racing them. And at the time, and they had already been phased out by the time I was getting serious, and nobody accepted them. So I tried to get multiple associations to get me in there and let me race, and most of them wouldn't have anything to do with it. So I tried to race best in desert. In fact, probably going back about 99 or 2000 is when I asked them, and they weren't having anything with that at all. They basically laughed at me. So, but they're great now. And they're great then too. But there's just this stigma with three-wheelers that I honestly don't understand, because I don't think they're any more dangerous than a motorcycle. I race motorcycles. I haven't really raced these, but I've ridden these for years. I don't think they're any more dangerous at all. It's just a different skill set to be able to ride that.
I kind of agree with you. The problem being is 60 Minutes killed us in 85, and nobody could rebut it. The company that could have stopped it all was Honda, and in my opinion, they caved.
Yeah, they did.
Maybe their legal department didn't handle it correctly. If they would have fought it, I think it comes down to personal responsibility. If you're going to throw your leg over any type of off-road vehicle, motorcycle, ATV, whatever it is, three-wheeler, it's your responsibility.
Yeah, absolutely. You really should know what you're doing, no matter what. Like you just said, I mean, on any vehicle, it doesn't matter what it is. Desert racing is kind of an interesting sport, because it's one of the only sports in the world where you can literally, if you have enough money, you can literally go out and buy any vehicle you want and go jump in it and go race any race you want, with no driver's etiquette education, no safety education, no education at all. And it's kind of a problem. Not that I'm not condoning it. I mean, it's kind of nice. I don't like the rules. I like to be able to, do stuff that is, I don't know, easier to do. Let's put it that way. But it seems like when there's more and more rules and there's more regulations and this and that, it makes it harder for people to get into these sports. And that's why desert racing is nice to get into, because anybody can do it. But it's also kind of one of those things, it's a two-edged sword where anybody can get in a trophy truck and go out there and potentially hurt somebody or whatever. So three-wheelers for me, like I said, I race dirt bikes. I used to race motocross. I did arena cross, and I really didn't like it. I don't like this real tight technical stuff. I like to set up for jumps. And so I was always kind of more of I would have been more of like a supercross kind of guy, but they've never allowed me to race supercross because you have to go through, all the steps to be able to get there. I never did it. So I got into freestyle, did a lot of freestyle stuff for a while. Ryan Labo is a buddy of mine. I used to work on his bikes, and he started calling me Goob Tech. So that's where the name Goob Tech came from. I got on my shirt. It was kind of a joke. Gubler, he just started calling me Goob Tech, and so that stuck. And when I started racing again in 2021, I decided, I'm going to go with Goob Tech.
That's awesome. How long did you have to beat up on Best in the Desert before they finally said, let's do this?
So, to be honest with you, it was kind of a fluke thing. I ended up racing the Hare and Hound. I don't know which one it is I'm pointing at. Anyways, the one that says second place there underneath the rugged. I ended up buying I was out in the middle of the desert in Nevada, and anybody that follows my page knows that I'm always looking for old cars and trucks and stuff like that. And I have a YouTube page. I don't really do much with that, but I'm always looking for old power wagons and stuff to restore. And I found these jet boats, and I also like jet boats. And so I found this jet boat, and I said, hey, I got to have that. So met the guy, I drove out there, and I go out there in the barn. He said, oh, yeah, it's out there in the barn. Go look. And here sits an XR Honda dirt bike sitting there. And I'm like, heck with the jet boat. I want the Honda. And, I actually wanted both. And so I made a deal. I ended up buying 2 jet boats and the XR in a package deal. And so I had been watching this YouTube series, Gabe, on, what is it called? I'm drawing a blank right now, but it's something magazine. Anyways, Gabe, gosh, what's it called? I watch him all the time. Anyways, he does some setup with Rocky Mountain and whatnot. But I watched Gabe's channel, and he takes these old bikes and he just fixes them up and he goes racing, and a lot of Glen Helen stuff and whatnot. And, it was really an inspiration to me. And I thought, this guy's going out there on old stuff, and he's got a full-time job. He's an active duty, I think he's, I can't remember what he does. Anyways, he's military. But I thought, he's doing it. Anybody can do it. I can do it, And Gabe's very talented. But I had that old XR, and I thought, you know what? I want a desert race. So I'm finally going to do it. I just, for years, everybody told me how scary it was and how dangerous it was. Now, you shouldn't do it because of this and that, the cost, and mainly how dangerous it was. And so I said, what? It's all nonsense. I used to race arena cross. I did freestyle. It's no big deal. So I started ordering parts, and I fixed up this old XR, and I went and did the 2021. It was the Tonopah Hare and Hound, National World Hare and Hound. And I met Nolan Rudd, the tech inspector for Best Desert. Super cool guy. And I started talking to him, and he was giving me a little crap, and I was giving him a little crap back. And I said, hey, man, I want to race Vegas to Reno on my three-wheeler. And he's like, you are out of your friggin' mind. He's like, no way. And I'm like, no, yeah, I'm serious, dead serious. And he's like, no. He's like, dude, you're nuts. He's like, you can't do that. And I was like, no, I'm serious. I want to race it. And he's like, you really think you could do Vegas to Reno on three-wheeler? I said, absolutely. I said, not only do I know I can do it, I'll finish it and it won't be a problem. And I'm not trying to be cocky there, but I was being cocky. And he goes, you know what? I'll tell you what. He says, we'll have some meetings. We'll see what we can do. And he said, call me on Monday. And so we did the race. I ended up getting second place in my first desert race ever, which was pretty cool. It's a lifelong dream for me. And so I called him on Monday and said, hey, man, I'm serious about this. He says, okay, I'm going to talk with Brian and the guys over there at Best in Desert, and we'll see what we can do. And about a week later, BJ Butcher, the owner of Vora Off-Road Racing, we had been talking back and forth, and I asked BJ years ago, I said, hey, man, let me do this thriller. That's all I got out of it. And it was weird. Out of the blue, he just messaged me and says, hey, man, you're going to be there for the Fallon 250. And I'm like, no, why? And he goes, well, enter your thriller. I'll let you race. And I'm like, I thought he was totally joking, just pulling my leg. And he goes, no, I'm serious. He says, enter pro quad on your thriller and I'll let you race. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I was freaking out. And at this point, this is a little over a year ago, I had the 350X frame sitting here and I had it totally torn apart, and I'm getting ready to totally go through it to build it for Vegas to Reno. I hadn't gotten the okay yet, but I was just getting it ready. And BJ tells me that. I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, of course I'm going to do it. So I slammed the 350X together as fast as possible, and Olson's Custom Metalworks sent me some awesome foot pegs and heel guards, and I bolted those on in an engine skid plate because, like a fool, I threw away a lot of that stuff. When I was younger, I thought lighter was better, and I was more into sand stuff. We got Sand Mountain here pretty close to Fallon. And but it was, slammed together. And I went out there and I got third place in pro quad on this old 86 Honda. And I mean, that was like huge for me. It meant a lot. And so I got to thank BJ and Laura for that. That was absolutely incredible. And so then I'm talking to Nolan, and we had a few meetings about it, this and that. And he messaged me one night and he says, hey man, we made it happen. You're going to be able to race Vegas to Reno. And I'm like, for me, that was a huge, huge dream. That's a 25 plus year dream. I started following Best in Desert back when they started up doing Vegas to Reno, which I think was like 98 when they started doing Vegas to Reno. And man, a huge dream. And when he told me that, I was just like, just absolutely taken back. And so I got to thank Nolan. I got to thank Megan, Jeff, when he was there, Jeff Phillips. All those guys made that happen, and especially Nolan. Nolan really put in the work and did all the meetings, and we were able to announce it. And I announced it, and then couple other people, caught wind of it, Fishgistics, and Wool Beaters. They found it, and then they posted it up for me, and it took off from there. It's been pretty incredible.
That's pretty amazing story. The series that you raced on the 250, what was that?
So that is Best in Desert, but it was one that they worked with the National Hare and Hound.
Okay.
It was the Tonopah Hare and Hound National World. I think it's World Championship Hare and Hound or whatever it's called.
Isn't that sanctioned by the AMA?
That's AMA, yeah, correct. And they're actually having that one here in a couple weeks.
So did you have to get sanctioned by the AMA?
I did. Yeah, and I had
three-wheeler, and they allowed that.
Oh no, that was on the XR on the dirt bike, and yeah, they didn't. I was told. So talking about the AMA, I hadn't been registered with the AMA since probably like 2000 or 2001, back when I used to race arena cross. But I re-registered with them for the Hare and Hound, and I did that on the XR, the dirt bike.
So, but when you got to go race the three-wheeler,
yeah,
when you put it back,
that was with Fora, and that was just a local. That's a local Northern Nevada, Northern California Association.
Do they talk to the Best in the Desert guys at all?
They do. Do
you think that was them doing a little pre-run with you to see how it went?
No, that was the interesting part. When BJ messaged me and said, "Hey man, enter the race," I said, "Did you talk to Best in the Desert or something?" And they said, and he goes, "No." He's like, "What do you mean?" And I'm like literally, I'm trying to get Best in the Desert to allow three-wheelers, and then you randomly, I mentioned a few weeks previous, I, also asked him again, but still, I didn't think anything was going to come of it. But then he was like, "Yeah, come on out." So, I mean, he hadn't talked to Best in the Desert. I hadn't posted anything. I mean, there was nothing. He just invited me, and I was like, man, heck yeah, I'm going to jump on that. And so, yeah, pretty wild. I'm really thankful to BJ and Laura and Nolan and everybody at Best in the Desert.
So, how long did it take for you to let anybody know that you were going to race Vegas to Rio?
It was immediate. When Nolan messaged me and said, "Hey man, you're going to race Vegas to Reno," I waited probably a couple of days. I waited for Best in the Desert to put together the post that they wanted to post. And I can't remember which one it was, but I think it was actually a picture of me that Todd, a buddy of mine, Todd, that does photography and whatnot, and he does killer FPV, I think it's called, drone footage and whatnot. He got a picture of me. I think it was him that got a picture of me. Anyways, Best in the Desert used that, and then they made a nice, post, and then I posted that. We kind of coordinated, and we all posted at the same time, within an hour or so.
The three-wheeler community, we won't get too deep into it, but the three-wheeler community is pretty tight-knit. And
it is.
It's not small, but it's not large.
Yeah.
How did they receive that post?
Honestly, a lot of positivity. I was immediately messaged by multiple people that said they wanted to do it, and asked, how that had happened and whatnot. And I kind of told them what I just told you. But there was guys thanking me and stuff. So for getting it going again, a few different people reached out. We just messaged them and told them, "Hey man, this is what we got to do." And, try and get as many people as we can and get it going. So everybody I talked to, I said, "Yeah, come on out. Let's do it."
That's pretty incredible. So how much time did you have from the day they said, "Let's go," to the race so that you could prep that 350?
I think because it was totally torn apart, when I did the Fallon 250, I literally slammed that thing together, went out, did that. And then immediately, the same day, I came back and tore it apart again. And I wanted to get everything powder coated because it was nobody's seen it. I haven't posted any pictures of it. Well, I take that back. There's one video, old video, but you can't really see it. I had this thing, I don't know why, but I had this thing for orange, gray, and white back in the late 90s, early 2000s, and I had a real custom Power Wagon, 44-inch tires, and a custom airbrush paint job. It was all orange, gray, and white. Anyway, so the frame was orange. It just looked like heck. And it had this custom seat cover, and I'm like, no, I'm going to put it back to the original Honda theme, 1986 Honda theme, and, which I'd been wanting to do for a while. And so I had to powder coat everything. I had to get, I knew I was going to get a high flight seat because, that's the best thing you can do on a three-wheeler or quad, especially for desert racing. And so I'm going to get a blue seat cover and this and that. So I had I want to say I had 3 weeks, and I had to get everything powder coated, go through everything, minus the engine. I never touched the engine. To this day, I haven't touched that engine. Just go through everything and make it look as good as I could. And so, by the time I got everything back from powder coat, I think I had 7 days to assemble it and get to Vegas.
Wow, that's cutting it a little close, don't you think?
Especially considering the fact that, one, I didn't know what my jetting was going to be because I know the start down there is around 2,200 feet. We're up here at 4,000 to 5,000 feet, and I've been running this forever. So honestly, I didn't know where I was going to be at for jets. I didn't want to blow it up. So I ended up jetting it way, way too high. And I found out that it was actually jetted a little too high for where I was at. It was very conservative, and that's why I've never heard it. But a little high for where I was at to start with. The jetting I had in it would have been perfect to start with, but I upped it 2 sizes and lost a whole bunch of power for the beginning of the race, which was terrible. But yeah, that was interesting. Going back to the beginning of let's say 7 days till Vegas to Reno, man, I was sweating it, and I didn't know if I was going to make it. I'll be honest. I had a bare frame. I'm trying to polish everything and clean it up and make it look as good as possible because I knew this was kind of a big deal. I knew it was for me, and I wanted to look as good as possible and function as good as possible. So I put this thing together, and I did it. The main majority of the work I probably did in 5 days, and I was getting up probably. I'm kind of a late night guy, anyways, but getting up and getting going 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, and I would work till 1, 2, 3, 4 in the morning, all 5 days. The day that I was supposed to leave, I had already been up. I was up for, by the time I got the three-wheeler together, and because I was still fabbing stuff, I was making the grab bar, and I was modifying the skid plate, just all kinds of stuff. And I made I think you've seen the big skid plates that I make that have a chain guard built into them and whatnot. I was making that. And by the time I finished that up, I had been up for 31, 32 hours, something like that, on 4 hours of sleep the previous night. And it was, I want to say 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. I finally got it together. No testing on the electrical at all. I had those big 7-inch Hella LED lights on there and a battery. And I converted the stator to an open ground, so it was DC, and did a rectifier from Trail Tech. So that stuff wasn't even tested. And I jumped on the three-wheeler and I went down the street right here from my house. I could go down the street, and in a quarter mile I could be on dirt, and you could take off and you can go for 100 miles. And I went down the road probably literally 2 miles, and I also geared it to the moon. And went down the road about 2 miles, turned around, came back, and I rented a U-Haul. This was hilarious. I rented a U-Haul because I had a buddy of mine, meeting me in Vegas with a chase truck. He was going to chase me up, and he's originally from here, but he lives down in Tucson now. And so I didn't want to drive my truck down there because I had nobody to drive it back. And he's my chase guy. So I rented a U-Haul. And so I load the thing in the U-Haul, I jump in the truck, and I leave. And I made it almost to Tonopah, which is about halfway. and I couldn't take it anymore. I had been up, coming up on 40 something hours on 4 hours of sleep. And so I pulled over, I took about a 45-minute nap, and then the sun woke me up because it was so hot. And then I think I drank a Red Bull and jumped back in the, driver's seat, man, and friggin' took off. And I made it to, there's a turnoff. You can go to, I can't even remember what the name of the town is anymore. Anyways, the main way you go down to Vegas was blocked. There was a 5-car accident with fatalities, and it was blocked. And so we had to turn around and go back and go through the town. And I don't know why it's skipping my mind right now, but the town that high flight seats and seats, they're in. You can go through that town, but it takes you to the west side of Vegas. And so I go back, and I was already in line waiting for an hour and a half, I think, before we turned around. But turned around, went that way, and Tech was closing. Tech was going to close at 4 o'clock, I think. And I literally rolled in there at like 3:30. Just wasted, absolutely wasted. And rolled in at 3:30, got through Tech real fast. Rugged Radios helped me out, got some stuff going. And then the best thing I did, and I've never done this, is I got an IV. I went over to the gal that does all my IVs, and she gave me an IV, and I felt like 100% better after that. And then we went back to a buddy of mine's house, or he's a buddy now, but Nick Fickle, my chase guy, took me to a buddy of his, and Dakota, his house, and we had to rejet the carburetor. I tested it, and I was like, man, there's no power. Something's wrong here. And so I rejetted the carburetor, and we tested it out. I went down the road, and I'm like, okay, this is it. And Nick Fickle had no way. He had a flatbed truck, and he had no way to mount all the gas cans and the tires and all the stuff. And so he went down to Dakota's shop, and they built a tire rack to hold all the tires and the gas cans and everything else. I mean, just incredible. And Nick Fickle was up. He was up all night. He got 1 hour of sleep. I jumped in Dakota's toy hauler or trailer, whatever. I got 3 hours of sleep. So I was up for almost 50 hours on 4 hours already. And then I got 3 hours of sleep and woke up in the morning, and it's race day. So oh man, I was absolutely destroyed. I was delirious. And Nick Fickle got 1 hour sleep. He made a tire rack to hold all the tires and gas cans and everything. Freaking awesome dude. I love that guy. And Dakota. And anyways, they got it done. We loaded everything up, or they loaded all that night. And so we jump in the truck, and we thought the start was in Beatty, Nevada. And turns out the start was 40 miles north of Beatty. And so we're going to Beatty. We're like, oh, we got plenty of time. Well, another 40 miles is almost another 50 minutes or so, and we're running behind. And we're getting into Beatty, and we're like, where's all the signs? Where's all the people? There's no. And then Nick realizes, hey, it's 40 miles north. And so we're doing 90, 95 miles an hour down the highway, and, I'm delirious. The camper.
Hold on one second.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, Wrangell. Go back to the you guys were in Beatty, and
yeah, so we're in Beatty, and we didn't see any signs or anything, for the starting area, and where the starting area normally was in Beatty, it wasn't there, and so we're going, oh crap, And so Nick gets on his phone, and this is why he's my crew chief, and he does all of my logistics for my pits and everything else. The guy's incredible. And so he jumps on his phone real quick, and he figures out, hey, it's 40 miles north. And so we're like, okay. So we're doing like 90, 95 down the highway. We're flying. And I'm eating a spicy salami sandwich, like the worst thing you could have at 5:30 in the morning or whatever, and especially before a big race. And because the breaker on the camper blew and the microwave stopped, so I didn't get my breakfast stuff, and I'm a huge breakfast guy, and so I didn't get my breakfast stuff, so I'm eating this spicy sandwich, and forever it was hashtag spicy salami sandwich, but I'm eating this sandwich, and Nick's like, oh, we're going to lose a cooler, and he's looking in the mirror, we're going to lose a cooler, we're doing 90, 95 mile an hour, we pull over, we were going to lose all of it, the three-wheeler was hanging off the back of the truck and was hanging on just a couple straps. We had more on it, but just everything shifted. Almost lost the three-wheeler that morning. And we could get it restrapped and everything. And this is on, some of this stuff is on my Instagram. So if you go way back, you can see some funny videos. But we get it restrapped and we haul butt and jump out at the start line there. And I'm throwing all our gear and everything else and getting everything ready. And thank God for those guys, Nick Fickle and his buddy, and they helped out a lot. Got all the gear on and literally rolled up to the start. And it was like 2 bikes or something was in front of me. That was it. Like there was no time at all for me to, do anything. It was like, we got there right on time. And, that was it, man. The green flag dropped and all of the stress of getting there and all of the, how I felt terrible. I was just totally destroyed. All that went away immediately when that flag dropped. That was cool.
And that first 50 miles, what was it like?
Miserable. Miserable. The first 50 miles, not because of physically, I was doing fine physically, and the 350X, in my opinion, and Damien, I work real closely with Damien over at DT Motorsports now, great guy, and the 350X, we both know and we both say that the 350X is probably arguably the best platform all around three-wheeler that's ever been built. Not the best suspension. 250R is probably a little better there, maybe a little faster, but just all around reliability, ergonomics, the steering, the rake on the forks is just really good. Is it the fastest thing? No, it's not. It's pretty slow, honestly. Mine is quite a bit faster than a stock one. But yeah, so with the jetting, we jetted it down one size, but it's still one size bigger than I normally run. I had no power, and it was just absolutely killing me because we went up over these mountains a little later in the race, but you still kind of go up a little ways and go over this hill. There's a couple of them, and I couldn't even hold third gear. Well, I couldn't hold fourth gear. I was in third gear on some of those hills, and I was just pinned, and I'm yelling at the bike, and I'm going, it has more power than this. What's wrong with this thing, And I'm thinking, I geared it too tall, and I'm thinking, this thing's geared way too tall. It doesn't have the power to pull it. And I was just getting absolutely slaughtered by the other guys. By the time we got to pit 1, I want to say they put 9 miles between me and him. And I was just going, man, if this whole day goes like this, I'm going to get destroyed out here. And I was angry because, not so much angry, but just, I knew the bike had more. And I pull into pit 1, and we were going to wait till pit 2 to jet because the elevation comes up. And I should have jetted right there at pit 1. But I told the guys, I said, man, it is geared way too tall. We're going to change gears if this doesn't get better. It wasn't the gearing, it was the jets. And so we kept going, and it got better because it gets, after you go over those mountains and stuff, it gets a little better, and it gets a little smooth. It's kind of fast section and a little flatter, and you come down off the backside of some of those mountains. And I made up 6 of those miles, I think, between me and the leader. And so I was catching them fast, which was pretty cool. And pulling to pit 2, but then we lost some time because I said, man, it's still way down. So we rejetted it. And I'll tell you something, I can save it for the end of the story, but I broke the jet, the main jet. I was trying to do it too fast. Another guy was doing it, and I think he boogered up the threads a little bit. And then I got in there, and I was like, and I got it in straight and everything, but I just over-tightened it a tiny bit too much. It's the first time I've ever broke a jet, but I didn't know it. And thank God it didn't fall apart or anything. It just cracked it, and it stayed together, and everything was fine, and it worked. I didn't even know it until 2 months after the race. I was taking it apart and went to pull the jet out of it, and it fell apart. I went, oh, man. So I could have lost the race right there. Anyways, rejetted it, and the bike came to life. It was like, okay, now we're going. And so picked up a bunch of power and yeah, we started doing good, and it felt pretty good. It takes me, going back, you're saying about the first 50 miles. The first 50 miles was hard on me because I had never raced a three-wheeler in those kind of situations for that long. And so the fatigue was pretty bad. But once you get through that wall, there's like a barrier for me. I'm sure everybody has it. Everybody talks about it. There's that barrier. And for me, it's like 50 miles, or so, 30 to 50 miles or so. And once I break through that barrier, then I can just go all day long. And see, I was miserable. But there's more to it than that. So I passed a few people here and there, in that time. And I came up behind one of these, I don't know what it was, a Can-Am or I don't know. Anyway, I came up behind some sort of a big four-wheel drive quad with like 32-inch tires and like, I called it the couch. I don't know what it was. Can-Am, one of those 1,000cc jobs. And for some reason, I would catch this guy in the rough. And I thought, why am I catching this guy in the rough? He's got these big tires, modern suspension, and everything. He should be flying through this stuff. But I caught him in the rough, and that's where I catch most people. It's just because I ride fast in the rough. And I caught this guy, and I thought, okay. And I followed him for, 20 miles. And I thought, man, please give me a clear section. The dust wasn't clearing at all. There was no breeze at all. And so there was just, this dust was hanging over the trail or the road, and I couldn't see at all. I couldn't see from, me to 5 feet in front of me at times. I couldn't even see in front of me. There was times I couldn't see the ground next to me. I was looking down, couldn't even see the ground. And I told myself, okay, when we get to a fast section, I'm going to pass this guy. And we hit the lake bed, and that freaking 1,000cc quad left me like I was standing still. And I was in shock. I thought, because a lot of those Polaris and stuff, 350XL has no problem taking them on. But not that 1,000cc quad. That thing took off, and next thing I know, I'm looking, he's miles ahead of me. And then I caught him in the rough again. And I followed that guy. I don't know who he is. I hope he's watching. If you are, next time pull over. I caught him in the rough again. I followed that guy for 100 miles like that. And I was just absolutely furious with the guy because I couldn't see. And I just, and if I caught you, the thing in desert racing, I learned before even desert race, years ago, 20 years ago, if you get caught desert racing, you already lost on time. Pull over. And not only that, you're probably not even in the same class anyways. So just, make it easy on the guy, pull over. And so anyways, he finally pulled over about 100 miles out, and I got by the guy, and then I was in clear air most of the day after that. Wasn't too bad. It's funny because in the dusty section, I'm praying, and you guys probably know I love Jesus, and so I'm praying, and I'm going, God, please just give me a breeze. Just give me a breeze so I can see. And no breeze until the end of the race. There was a windstorm, and the wind was so bad. And I'm going, I said a breeze, but, it was like being on Mars. I couldn't see anything. But a funny story on that guy too. I figured I was going to pass him in the rough. I said, you know what? I'm going to pass this guy, and I'm just going to put my trust in my instincts, and I'm praying to God. Please don't let me get hurt out here. And I just said, I'm going to pass this guy. And I'm like, that's how these guys do it, right? They got to pass him somehow. So I just get on it, and I'm every now and then I could see the guy's tail light ahead of me. I'm like, okay, And little did I know, I had a dirt bike doing the same thing with me. He couldn't see me. He was right off my back end, probably 20, 30 feet, and I didn't even know he was back there. And but he was just tailing me because he couldn't see. And so I'm pushing hard, and out of the corner of my eye, I see that big 1,000cc quad going the other direction. And I'm like, oh no! And I just lock up the brakes, and as soon as I do, bam! I shoot up over this berm and got all crazy. And I'm thinking barbed wire fence, cliff. I don't know where I'm at. And thank God there's nothing there, no trees or nothing. And I thought, okay, I'll back off. But then, like I said, he finally pulled over later on, and I got by him. But
did the dirt bike guy have any problems with you at that point?
He almost got tangled up with me. I looked over when I hit the berm, and I got all silly, and I looked over, and he's right next to me doing the same thing, fishtailing. Finally, he got it straightened out, and I don't think he ever did pass me. I think I got straightened out, and then he just backed off, and I backed off from the other guy, and I caught that other guy in the rough again. And so, But that's how the very beginning of that race went. It was rough.
Isn't Vegas to Reno the greatest event you could ever ride?
It's special. There's nothing like it. If there's one race, if I could only do one race ever, that would be the race, no doubt. The length of it, the people, the camaraderie, the terrain. I grew up riding a lot of this stuff. It's all very similar to me. I didn't know those roads particularly, but it's incredible. The whole experience is really something else.
I love Vegas to Reno.
Yeah.
As a builder and as a racer.
Yeah.
And it will always be special to me.
Yeah.
Not everybody understands it, which when you talk to people, they think we're crazy.
Oh yeah. Well, the thing I get from a lot of people that just don't understand desert racing at all. They go, "Oh, 500 miles on a three-wheeler?" They're like, "That's crazy." And I'm like, "Yeah, on like dirt roads." And they're like, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, "Those rough dirt roads that you see out there in the desert, like that's what we're on." And they're like, "What? You're insane." And
Well, a little. Yeah, I mean, maybe.
But it's something I grew up doing. I was always around desert racing and desert racing trucks and whatnot. I never got into it because family members and, not that I'm trying to put anybody under the gun here, but just everybody, friends, everybody else, man, it's so dangerous and the cost and everything else. And I really kicked myself because I should have just done it. And that's my advice for anybody watching this video that hasn't done it. Freaking do it. Buy a bike, buy a quad. You could go race this stock quad, put a red flashing light on the back end and go race the thing. And, get a modern, obviously you have to have a good helmet that's within a certain date. That's it. Get your safety gear, go race, man. Talk to some people, get some knowledge, maybe do some local races. You don't want to jump right out there and do Vegas to Reno.
Racing is it's inherently dangerous. Doesn't matter what you race, tricycles, three-wheelers, four-wheelers, motorcycles, trucks. You can get hurt doing all of it. And if you get the proper training, have the proper training in the gear, and do everything that you're supposed to, that doesn't mean you're not going to get hurt. That just means that you're taking care of yourself and doing the best you can. Look at the football players and the baseball players. And any sport that you want to look at, you can get hurt doing.
No doubt. And I'll be honest with you. I have respect for the guys that say, "No, I'll never do that because I just couldn't do it." At the same time, I respect them for that because that's being wise. Because not everybody can get out there and do it. I think the band of rebels that I ride with and race with and whatnot, and these other guys, and includes all the cars, trucks, everything. These people are something else, man. They're A-type personality, excuse my language, they're all badasses. You gotta be.
I never looked at it like that. I didn't. I just looked at it as another race, it is what, you just, okay, I got to ride that section. Okay, great.
Yeah.
And I never thought, the only time I really got scared racing was when I was in Mexico.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So, and it wasn't because it was dangerous. It was because everybody that was standing on the sidelines, yipping in my ear, if they wouldn't have done that, I would have went there and had a blast.
Oh yeah.
They psyched me out almost before. And it really disappointed me on my finish because I think I could have done better if we wouldn't have done that.
And I'll be honest with you, that's the same experience I have is all of the people that kept talking to me in my ear that honestly, most of them had no experience at all. I listened to them and that was my biggest fear. And once I got out there and did it, I did one or two races. I was like, man, this is freaking awesome. I want to do this the rest of my life. So
how does your wife take the racing and all that?
She's a trooper. I got one of the best wives in the world, thank God. She's an amazing woman. She's not, this is kind of crazy. She's not like a racer mentality type of person. She's just easy going. She just likes to have a good time and live life. but she's not like competitive. Well, she is. She's super competitive in soccer. She's a soccer player. But as soon as she met me, right away, I was taking her to desert races back in 2005 or something like that. I was only 25 years old back then, but I was taking her desert races, and we used to go volunteer and help pick with some of the VOR races. I grew up VORs right here, and so we used to go over to what's it called? Anyways, Prairie City. We used to go over to Prairie City and pay for some guys over there. And one of the guys, they have a powder puff race, and they didn't have any girls to race the car. And so I was there with my girlfriend at the time, and they're like, "Hey, Stephanie, do you want to race this car?" And she's like, she looks at me, and I'm like, I just looked at him. I said, "Listen, man, she has no experience in a car like that, but she's a good driver and she can drive a stick." And it was a Class 10 car, and man, she jumped in there and absolutely freaking killed it. She is such a good driver, and she jumped in that car and immediately whole shot at everybody. By the second turn, she was 5 cars in front of every car truck out there, and yeah, she led the whole race all the way up to the last lap. And a Class 7 truck, I don't know what they're called now, 1450, whatever, the little Ford Rangers, totally out of control, was never going to make the corner or anything, just T-boned her. It was like the second to last turn, just came into the turn and just center punched her right in the side. And it spun the car out. It kicked 2 injectors out of the engine, actually knocked the injectors and the rail off. So now it's running on 2 cylinders. It's still running. Did a bunch of tube damage and whatnot. And she's a freaking trooper, man. The truck, so when it hit the car, the truck got straightened out on the track, and it messed her up, spun her around. She got turned around and chased that truck down and going across the line, man. She was on the bumper of that truck with 2 cylinders on that car. And that was pretty cool. So she desert raced before me, a long time before me.
Wow, that's pretty awesome. Maybe she should be sitting there.
She's freaking rad. We raced, and maybe a lot of these viewers don't know, but I raced the Mint 400, not this last Mint, but the one before that. They had 2 of them back to back within like 3 months. It was last year. And it was an absolute disaster. The car fell apart, unfortunately. The guy that owns the car is a great guy. But the car had just done the Nora 1000, and with like minimal to no prep, I was given the car to go race the Mint after a 1,000-mile race. And it's just, you can't do that, and unfortunately we didn't have enough time to go through the car properly. But anyways, went out and did it. And the co-driver that was with me, good guy also, but he had never ridden in a race car. And I grew up driving these things. I had a Class 4 race truck. I never raced it, but I had a Class 4 race truck in my late teens, early 20s. And it was actually an old Kent Bullock truck. And I grew up driving that. My dad had it since I was 14 or something. So I grew up driving a Class 4 truck out in the desert and whatnot. And so I'm not trying to brag, but I'm a pretty dang good driver. And so the co-driver that was with me, he was absolutely just a ball of nerves and couldn't really take it. And so we pulled in after the first lap, and he jumped out, and nobody wanted to get in the car. And so I just looked at my wife and I said, "Suit up, let's go. You want to do this?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'll do it." And so she jumps in. She's such a freaking gangster. She jumps in the car and she's calling turns, and she's over there just having a freaking blast. We finished that race, and she did a great job. So I want to get her in something eventually.
That's awesome that you can rely on her that much, and has a great understanding of what you're doing.
Oh, she does. And, she's always there to support me and jumps right out there. And the amazing thing that gets me is, like, I have such a huge job to support my family. And then, even prepping these 3-wheelers, it's nuts what it takes. How these guys, well, it's real simple. They have teams to prep those trucks and stuff because, a lot of times I'm by myself doing these 3-wheelers, and it takes everything I have sometimes to get these things done. And she's preparing all the trailer and taking care of the kids and meals and everything else. And then she'll help me in the race too. And it's like, I don't know how you do all that.
Right.
So, yeah, pretty awesome.
When you got to the finish line, what went through your mind?
I'll be honest with you, man. I was so wasted at that point because of, the lack of sleep. I was delirious. Honestly, I couldn't think straight. Before I got to the finish line, let me back up. Before I got to the finish line, let me back up even further. Halfway through the race, I taped up at the beginning of the race. I never tape my hands ever. And I've seen a lot of pro riders, they tape up. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to try that because I usually get calluses pretty bad. And so I taped up for the first time in my life. Halfway through the race, I pulled my gloves off and they were bloody and calloused and skin was coming off. And one of the guys that was with my buddy Nick Fickle, my crew chief, he looked at my hands and he almost puked. He was like, dude, you're going to continue? And I'm like, give me the black tape. And so that was like, forever was hashtag, give me the black tape. But yeah, he got me this black tape that we had. I taped my hands up and my hands were hurting bad. By the way, I'll never, ever tape up again. But that's what did it. And so my hands were destroyed halfway through the race. So into the race, 11 miles out, Como Summit. Everybody told me over and over and over, racers too, told me the last 10 miles of Vegas to Reno is the worst. And if you're watching this, the last 10 miles of Vegas to Reno is the worst. That is not true at all. Okay. It's the first 10 miles of the last 20. So 20 miles out from the finish line is when the rocks start, and it is bad. I mean, it's just rough rocks, slabby rocks, loose rocks. You're going uphill, and there's no way to really go super slow on a lot of it. And my guts were hurting, my kidneys were hurting, my butt was raw, literally raw. My hands were destroyed, and and I'm 20 miles out, and the rocks are so bad, and I get towards the top of the summit, but I didn't know it because I had never been down those roads. It's nighttime at this point, it's dark. I get towards the end of the rocks. I didn't know it though. And I was 11 miles out, and I'm looking at the 11-mile marker, where it was the 11 mile, whatever it was, 490 something mile, whatever. Anyways, I'm looking at it, I'm going, the last 10 miles are the worst. I'm like, it gets worse than this, and I got off the bike and I walked off, 100 yards off the course, and I took a leak, and I'm standing there, and a class 1 car goes ripping by me, I'm in the dust, and I'm going, I was just miserable. And I'm, for the first time in my life, because I'm not a quitter, I don't quit. You'd have to light my bike on fire for me to quit. I don't quit. And so, for the first time in my life, I almost quit. I was that bad off. And I was sitting there and I'm thinking, man, this is miserable. I want this to be over. And I'm looking at the bike and I'm looking at the rocks and I'm going, the last 10 miles the worst? Man, I'm not doing this. I'm done, man. I don't want to do this. And then I sat there thinking that for a second. I thought, what's wrong with you, man? You're 11 miles away. You just went almost 500 miles. Go,
Right.
And I told myself, I said, you know what? There's no way in God's green earth I would quit right there. That's not in me. I don't quit. So I got on the bike and I fired it up and I went 100 yards and the rocks quit. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. So I'm coming down the backside of the hill and you're coming down into Dayton, Nevada. And there's some bumpy spots, but it's not bad. I mean, if you were in good shape at that point in the race, you could just haul butt down the hill. It's no big deal. But it's windy coming down off the mountain. And there's a dirt bike came up. He was probably a couple miles behind me, and I thought, oh, he's going to catch me quick. He must have been just as bad off because he never caught me. And I was in second gear on the 350X. That's pretty slow. Second gear, and I was just putting down that hill. And there's a section right before the finish line. You come up this hill, and right as you come over the hill, you can look down and you can see the fairgrounds and everything in the finish line. And I'm like, and the whole time I'm praying, please, Lord, let's be over. Please, Lord, let's be over. I was hurting. And I see the finish line, and I'm like, oh, heck yes. Then I get on it, and I grabbed a couple of gears, and I come flying down the hill, and I pull up to the finish line, and the first person there is Nolan Rudd, and I'm really thankful for that. And Nolan Rudd is ecstatic. because he made it happen. He's the guy that made Truler's race in Best in Desert, period. He's standing there and he's like, Wrangell, he's like, dude, you did it. He's like, he's all amped up and he's like, how you doing? And this, that. And I just looked at him and I just told him, man, I'm so tired right now. So wasted. I said, I think I probably would have cried because I just finished the race that I wanted to do for 25 years. You know what I mean? And it would have been really emotional, but I was so wasted. I couldn't even be emotional. And I just looked at him and said, man, I got nothing to say. I'm happy I'm here. I'm happy it's over. So,
awesome.
Afterwards, it was just, afterwards it starts to sink in and it took months. It took months to sink in to what I had actually accomplished, awesome. One of the best experiences of my life, for sure.
When you called your wife?
Oh, she was there at the finish line.
She was at the finish line?
Yeah, a lot of my family was there and stuff.
So they got because she didn't go down the hill with you in the beginning in the U-Haul, did she?
No, nobody. I went by myself.
Oh, so they drove separately, and they stayed about all the things that had went on.
Yeah, they stayed here home and just waited for me. That's what we do every year. They stay here, and because we start down there and come up, they just meet me at the finish line, and I got my crew that goes along with me. So the family just stays home.
How far away from the finish line do you live?
It's probably an hour and 15 minutes, something like that.
It was the longest 15-minute ride home ever, wasn't it?
Yeah, but about an hour and a half or so, hour and 15 minutes. The ride home, was miserable. I should have took some ibuprofen. Nobody had any that I could find, and my back was hurting so bad. I was miserable. I was like, get me home, get me in bed. And I think I slept for 12 or 14 hours after that race.
Wow. You work with your hands for a living, correct?
Sure.
How long did it take for your hands to recover?
3 months for my hands to heal. So I had no feeling in my hands. I think because of the taping up cut off circulation and the vibration. And I'm not going to say why, but the rear tire shook so bad all the way to Reno. They shook so bad, and guys don't understand it. When you're on a quad, you have two front tires to catch it. So if the back, let's say the left rear is hopping, the right front catches it, or the opposite, And so the vibrations kind of mitigated a little bit. Where on a three-wheeler, everything pivots on that front tire. So if your back tires are shaking, the whole bike shakes side to side, and it's violent. And it just destroyed my hands. And not permanently, but it was, my hands didn't start getting back most of their feeling till almost about 2 months out. And it took 3 months to heal. I did another race 2 months after Vegas to Reno, and my hands were still pretty bad. I was worried about it. I didn't know if I could even do the race. But it was the taping up that did all of it, I'm sure, because I've done plenty of races since and had no issue like that.
Yeah, I'm a no glove guy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
no.
I don't glove. I don't nothing. Very
yeah. Yeah. No, I couldn't do that.
I don't like gloves.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the problem is it, the more material you have there, it wrinkles up in your hand and it causes calluses and stuff. And it's just like, and I understand why guys like the real super thin gloves, but instead of those real super thin gloves, it wouldn't last through a race, So another buddy of mine, Dave Arnold, he helped pit for me this year. He super glues his hands. And so they used to call him Super Glue Dave. And so he hates it, by the way. But they call him Super Glue Dave. And so they told me about it, and I didn't even know Dave at the time. I said, what the heck, I'm going to try it. And so that's what I did. I raced the Yerington 300. I got first place. Oh, where that trophy is. somewhere in here. Anyways, I did the Yerington 300. Oh, right there, the far left one for you guys. Got first place, and but that was 2 months out. I super glued my hands, super glued my fingers and my hands where you get calluses. That is the best trick ever. When I got done with that race, I literally had just one tiny little one starting, and that was it. And my hands hadn't even fully healed from Vegas to Reno. So,
and it just, the super glue was basically gone by the time you finished the race?
Yeah. Yep. So, yeah, I shouldn't give away all my secrets, but yeah, I super glue my hands now. Works.
Well, that's a pretty good little trick, right?
Yeah. Yep. So, and then another thing I tried too was those, I think they're called Pro Grip. Makes those big grips. A lot of the CR500 guys used to like them because they help with their vibration and whatnot. They don't work on the DT. They work perfect on the 350X, but the DT 450, the modern trike, they're just too big, they're too fat. So I run a smaller grip that's more grippy.
That's I could see that.
Yeah,
we're probably going to run out of time to get into the other bike, and I really want to. That was one of the things that I did want to talk about as well, because you've done some of your own testing and your own building and made that machine your own.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get a little bit more information about it. So what I'm going to probably ask you to do is come back and sit down with me again, and we can get in depth a little farther with that machine, and then some of the industry things that we didn't talk about this time, because that Vegas to Reno race, really, we've been trying since you raced that race to do this.
Yeah, and I apologize. I wanted to do this a year ago, but I just so busy with work and the three-wheeler. I'll be honest with you, the three-wheeler, the new one, the modern one, people ask what it costs. You and I talked about this about a month ago. They asked what it costs, and somebody said, "Oh, I bet you could buy one of those for about $7,000." And I'm like, "You could buy the tires and wheels and maybe part of it for $7,000."
Right.
I have over 600 hours in the new modern one, fabricating the swing arm and the subframe and designing all that and developing it, working with Damien on the triple clamps and stuff. We developed triple clamps, first in the industry, negative rake clamps for a modern trike. Nobody's done it. We were the first ones that I know of. And Damien and I worked on that. We developed those, and that made the steering a lot lighter, stuff like that. But yeah, 600 plus hours. And, you want to build one of these modern trikes, go out and race those things. My whole package for the 350X for 2021, that whole race, entry fees, bike, gear, everything included, I was probably in that whole thing $7,000, which is a lot. That's a chunk of money for some people, but that doesn't even scratch the surface on what my budget was for this last year. 600 plus hours and north of $30,000 in parts. So this is going to sound totally absurd, and most people probably just go, "Oh, that's nonsense," but it is. It's the truth. You're coming up on a $100,000 three-wheeler, which is absurd me even saying that. But
when you realistically add hours, I totally get it, because that's the one thing that everybody discounts. Oh, I could do that work myself. Okay, what is your dollar figure when you're doing the work?
Yeah, and
nobody wants to calculate that.
Yeah, and that's, by the way, that's at $100 an hour. Shop rate for developing all those parts that I've done, that Damien and I have done. Drawing them up in CAD and then making them and turning them out on the lathe at the mill. Every single little piece. I mean, I don't know how many pieces went in a swing arm, but it was a lot. The time to do that. If you don't count your time, I mean, $30 plus $1,000. That's no big deal, but with the time, it's insane.
Well, so, I look at it. I get that, because I'm not fabbing a swing arm and doing that, but hand build a four-wheeler to go race Vegas to Reno. From bare frame to finish, and nobody believes this, to do it right, in my opinion, it's a 60-hour job.
Yeah.
You know, and they're like, well, how could it take 60 hours? You know, you can put a bike together in 8 to 12 hours. And I go, yeah, you can't do it right.
No, yeah, there's no way.
And so I totally respect that. I have a question because I think about this weird stuff all the time. You were talking about the negative rake. The rake on a 350X or a 250R, I don't know the rake.
Yeah.
But how do you get to figure that to make it work on the modern day stuff? Are you working off of 250R rake, or are you working off your own rake?
So what we did is Damien and I talked, and Damien's kit, DT Motorsports, is, as far as dirt bike conversions, it is the best kit out there, period. And it's the cheapest, by far the cheapest. And one thing that makes it the best kit is the motorcycle itself, the Yamaha. And, a lot of Honda guys are they're going to hate that statement, but it's true. And it took Damien a minute to convince me also, because I grew up racing Yamahas. I ended up switching to KTM, and then I ended up going to Honda, Honda, and then KTM in the end, back when I was racing arena cross and whatnot. And I was always kind of a Honda guy anyway. But, at that point, when I met Damien, I was a diehard Honda guy. But he explained to me, Damien's incredibly intelligent, and he explained to me fork angle and how the frame's designed for the swing arm, and the way everything works. The 06 to 09 YZ platform is just and I'm talking specifically for a motorcycle conversion, it's just the best platform. It really is. There's other bikes that could be used. The Hondas, and please, Honda guys, don't get all upset at this, but the Hondas are the worst. And I'm a Honda guy, okay? I love Hondas, but they're just terrible. The fork angle is really bad. I think they're 29 or 30 degrees or something. It may be 28. I think it's 29.
But can you fix some of that angle with triple clamp technology?
I think there's a fine line there. If you make the negative rake come back too far, I think you're going to end up with a cast ring effect that is going to make the handling not good. To answer your question, we are working on a Honda kit now, and it's not going to be available. We're not going to produce it or do anything. But there's other companies out there that do the Hondas right now, and they're absolutely horrendous. They're the worst on the market, but they're real popular. So not to name anybody, but we're doing a Honda to show that it can be done better. Is it going to be as good as the Yamaha platform? Probably not, but it could be a whole lot better than the other things that are on the market right now. So yeah, we're working on that. Yamaha's a really good fork angle. The KTM's Gas and Husqvarna, same bike. They have the same fork angle as the Yamaha to start with. I think it's 27 degrees. So they're actually a pretty good candidate. The issue is getting plastics to work and the seat to work and all that, which isn't a big deal.
Those are just dirty words, though.
Yeah, we don't. I race KTM, and I don't race KTM now for a reason. I don't own any KTMs, and I don't want any KTMs. So fastest bike I ever owned. Period. Worst suspension ever. But I'd go to a race and bring fork seals with me. That's how bad it was. What we based everything off of, Damien and I based everything off of for my particular trike, and his too. His is identical to mine now. We built his first actually, but we based the fork angle, the length, the wheelbase, everything is based off of the 350X. So if I took my 350X, and I will do that, I'll do that here soon. Maybe we'll get them set up for next video. If I put them side by side, you'd be shocked at how close the DT is to my 350X. They're very similar. And my 350X it's got its own issues, but the length of it and the fork angle and all of that, we took right off of my 350X. So
that's awesome. That's really cool. Wrangell, I want to thank you so much for taking the time, and I really appreciate you being patient with me. When you were ready, I wasn't, and vice versa, but we got this thing in, and I want to do a second a second go around with you to get in depth more with you on a different three-wheeler, doing some different races and how those things come out, and then talk a little bit more development if you'd be interested.
I would absolutely be interested, and it would be it'd be an honor.
The team here at ATV-TALK would love your feedback. Please email us at hello@atvtalkpodcast.com. San Diego's Body Evolution and Wellness Center, with over 17 years experience. Dr. Heidi looking out after all your chiropractic needs, and Coach PJ looking out after all your fitness needs. Visit our website, www.bodyevolution.org, or call for an appointment, 619-987-8875.
Duncan Technologies International. More than 33 years in the industry building racing programs and ATVs around the world. We build winners.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the episode. If you did, don't forget to rate us on all the available platforms and share us with your loved ones. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook for more ATV Talk news. See you next time.